Alright, so if you happen to fail Extending Blow, which likely will happen, then you're going to want to move over to where the tightrope is, charge up a Skyward Strike, and release it onto the beehive over here, or the hornet nest, I suppose, because these are hornets. And then make your way across the tightrope. It's important to note that this Skyward Strike right here is not going to work, this Skyward Strike is a lot more precise on normal mode. So, on normal mode, you might have more success just trying to shoot this nest with the slingshot twice instead while you're standing far back so the hornets don't follow you. But just another thing to keep in mind in normal mode. In hero mode, it's very easy, though, because the Skyward Strike easily travels far enough to hit the hive. And then make your way across the tightrope. Also going back to refilling only a quarter of the stamina meter as usual. A small target walk to begin running this way. And then you want to make your way over here and get the attention of this Bokoblin. Depending on how you fail the Extending Blow, the position of this Bokoblin will be different, but you always just want to run right up to wherever the Bokoblin actually is to get its attention properly. And then you want to immediately double back and go back to the arch of the bridge here. From this position, you're going to begin setting up the Cube Warp, right? So the Cube Warp is a glitch where we can use a target position of the Bokoblin's head when Link targets the Bokoblin to angle a Skyward Strike upwards and over the ledge so that we can hit the Goddess Cube that's right here. So the goal is to position the Bokoblin between Link and the Goddess Cube, and as the Bokoblin raises up to attack us, its target point becomes high enough that Link will actually perform a Skyward Strike in the upwards direction, and you'll be able to hit this Goddess Cube and teleport Link up here for the cutscene that's normally supposed to happen. So once you're back here under the arch of the bridge, you're going to want to turn around and target the Bokoblin, and you want to do 4 backflips along the path, roughly, right? You want these backflips to be as straight as possible along the path, right? So you don't want them going off to the left or right, because we want this Bokoblin to be in somewhat of a specific position as we try to angle it up for the Cube Warp. So that's the 3rd and 4th backflip. Once the 4th backflip has happened, you'll want to hold right and slightly down. You'll have to, dynamically change what angle you hold here so that you can try to get the Bokoblin into the proper position. There is, a range of positions that work for this as you move over to the right here. It's not, completely set in stone which position you have to hold, or which position you have to get to. And also, while you're moving over to the right here, you want to point your sword upwards and begin charging the Skyward Strike. Generally, right here, you kind of just have to eyeball what Link's angle of attack is going to be with the target point of the Bokoblin. So right here, I can tell as I scooch up against the wall that the Bokoblin is well within the line that Link and the Goddess Cube create, and that this angle, once the Bokoblin begins to attack me, should properly work for the Cube Warp. The Bokoblin's going to get closer to Link. At this point, you can see that the camera is starting to creep behind Link a little bit. This is kind of bad because it makes it a lot harder to actually see the Bokoblin if the camera keeps on creeping over like this. So if this happens, one thing you can do is temporarily untarget the Bokoblin and move the free cam this way so that the camera doesn't stay behind Link like that before retargeting the Bokoblin. The other thing you can do is move slightly left a little bit, which I believe is what I do here eventually. Yeah, so I move slightly left and that pushes the camera back out while still keeping me in line with the Goddess Cube and the Bokoblin. And then eventually right here, we want to wait for the Bokoblin to attack us before we try to release the Skyward Strike. So as we see right here, the Bokoblin arches back to begin trying to attack us, and right as the Bokoblin is at the peak of its animation here, we release the Skyward Strike forward, and because the target point is above Link, the Skyward Strike goes upwards and clears the ledge and hits the Goddess Cube, which is exactly what we want. Now, there's a couple of things to note here. One of the things that the Bokoblin can do is it can actually do a battle cry before it does this attack on Link, where it goes like, nah, and kind of just angrily shakes its fist. And if you release the Skyward Strike then, it's not going to work because the Bokoblin is just going to block it. So that's one thing to be wary of that may happen to you if you get caught off guard, or if you're just basing your timing on seeing the Bokoblin move at all, or change animations at all. The other thing that's important here is that the Bokoblin might just kind of stand here for a few seconds before it actually tries to attack you. And in this time, it'll kind of move back and forth like this in comparison to Link. You want the Bokoblin to be as close to you as it can possibly be, right? So if the Bokoblin is like back here, like behind where it's normally standing right now, then you're not going to be able to get an upward enough angle on the Skyward Strike to be able to hit the Goddess Cube, which of course means that the trick's not going to work. If that happens, one thing you can do is just let the Bokoblin hit you and then try again, hoping that the Bokoblin will move to a better spot next time you attempt it. Or the other thing you can do is try to move up slightly and then Skyward Strike the Bokoblin as it's attacking you to get that higher angle or that higher trajectory of attack with the target point. So it's a very dynamic trick, and there's a lot that goes into it. Usually, you don't have to worry about the Bokoblin moving back and forth because it'll attack you pretty quickly, and usually doesn't do the battle cry also. Those are things that only happen, like, maybe like 1 out of 5 times that you attempt this trick, but it's still significant enough that I think you should know about it. And yeah, so, but with enough practice, you can get this to be consistent. If everything seems like it's going correct, and you hit the Skyward Strike when the Bokoblin is at the peak of its attack, but the Skyward Strike is still like too low, and it doesn't manage to clear the ledge here, then what likely was the problem is that you were slightly too early with the Skyward Strike attack. The timing for this is kind of precise because you really need that Bokoblin to be at the peak of its pre-attack animation when it's arching back like that to get the proper angle. Because otherwise then the middle of the Skyward Strike is not going to clear the ledge here, which is how the game detects if a Skyward Strike should continue or not. So yeah, I believe that's everything that you need to know for Cube Warp. And then once you hit the cube, Link is teleported into this cutscene because that's just how this cutscene works. It automatically changes his position. You mash through the Goron text, and then you roll over here. If you don't have an amiibo to use for the run, then you want to push down this log. But if you do have the amiibo, then you can just continue on without pushing down the log. This will save you about 3 seconds later. And then you just roll over here, being sure to roll over to this position right here so that you clear this bottom ledge without having to do an extra roll. And then just make your way over to the Skyview Temple and pull out the slingshot to open it up. And that is how you go through the Deep Woods with Cube Warp. I hope that was helpful.